everybody. All right, I got to wake you guys up because you just ate. Come on. All right. Awesome. Well, I hope everybody enjoyed their lunch, and I hope the laptops show up. So I am Leslie Chapman, and I'm a distinguished engineer. I am with Comcast. I've been there for 16 years. And yeah, it's been a long time. It's kind of weird. And in those 16 years, I have had a lot of time to learn and to grow. And my passion these days is to try to teach other people some of the lessons that I had a hard time learning so that they can get there a little bit quicker than I did. And today what I want to talk about is how to become an influencer. Not a social media influencer. I promise nobody has to take any selfies. I'm not going to. But one of the things that we often struggle with as individual contributors is how to influence when you don't actually have direct reports, when you might not actually have a budget, right? So much more of what we do as individual contributors comes down to savvy, perhaps, or influence. Let me tell you a little bit about my background and my journey. So I started out as an embedded software engineer, working in C, C++ back in the day. That's how I got into Comcast, working on set-top boxes. I first started working on writing the middleware and firmware for them, so that was definitely a job for an embedded engineer. And one day, I came into the office and I was told, we're cloud-based now, go learn Java. And I was like, at the time I opened up whatever, jobfinder.com. I was like, I'm out of here. This is the worst. I'm going to write C code for the rest of my life. Nobody's going to stop me. This is crazy talk. But as it turned out, I really liked my coworkers, and it seemed like a whole lot of work to dust off my resume, and they were going to train me in Java. So I was like, all right, I'll stay. I'll learn this Java thing. And so I learned Java, and I learned all about CI/CD and deploying at scale to cloud-based architectures. And it was a really wild ride. It was lots of fun. And along the way, we built the X1 platform. Is anybody familiar with that? Oh, come on, guys. All right, I got the Comcast table over here. It's really cool. That's all you guys need to know. We've got a voice remote. And as I worked with the team to build this along the way, we won 2 Emmys. It's pretty cool. As a software engineer who started out in embedded software engineering, I never thought that I would be attending a technical Emmy Awards ceremony in Las Vegas, winning not 1, but 2 Emmys. And it's been awesome. I just found out we actually got nominated or won a Red Dot Award for our latest set-top box. And it has been really, really cool. But I'm not here to read you guys my resume. I'm here to talk about influence. And so let's pivot over there. Because when I started to think about how did I build the influence that I have? How did I end up leading teams that have won Emmys? How did I end up leading teams that build software that 35 million plus subscribers use across not just the United States, but internationally? I actually thought about the word influencer and how the most kind of famous influencers are our social media influencers. And maybe there's something we could actually learn from them. So I want to know, has anybody here heard of a woman named Kim Kardashian? I think that's a yes. All right. I mean, she's such a famous influencer, she actually broke the internet. Some people in this room might have had to help fix it. And maybe some of you folks have heard of Paris Hilton. Maybe a little bit. I'm not asking if you like them. Just maybe if you've heard of them. But the first thing that I thought of when I started thinking about really famous social media influencers was name recognition. Paris Hilton, whether or not you've heard of her, I'm pretty sure most of you have heard of her family and might even be staying in a hotel tonight that they own and operate. Her last name is Hilton because she is the heiress of the Hilton Hotel multi-billion-dollar conglomerate. And Kim Kardashian, I'm pretty sure everybody knows who she is. And the first thing that I think about when I think about them is name recognition. Because you can't really influence anything if nobody knows who you are. And I think that's where we'll start. So you notice I kind of came up here and bragged a little bit about my Emmys. Well, I did that on purpose, and it was to prove a point. If you want to influence people, that is the first thing you should be doing, is bragging about your achievements. When you're introducing yourself to people later on, maybe you did it at lunch, but do it at the next break, not just say your name and where you work, but say the awesome things that you have done in your career. Because guess what? It's going to spark conversation. It's going to make you memorable. And it's going to get people interested in who you are. Nobody's interested in me just because my name's Leslie. But when I start talking about Emmys and actually going to Emmy Award parties, now people are interested. So we might not all be born into the Hilton or Kardashian family fortunes, but we can make names for ourselves. And we should always, always, always remember that's the impression we're making the first time, because I guarantee you Kim is not shy when she introduces herself to people. So the next thing that comes along with name recognition and the recognition of who you are and what you've done with that name is often a brand, your brand. And it's never early enough in your career to make that brand. There's a lot of different things that go into a personal brand. Some of those things are quirky things. I love cats. I've been called a crazy cat lady. Almost everybody that has ever met me asks about my cats. I actually have a little thing on my desk that says, "Ask me about my cats." And people go, "Ha ha," and I'll be like, "No, ask me." Squee had a little sneeze this morning, and I might go home early and make sure he's feeling well. But, you know, it is important to have that brand and be true to it. And it's not all about the silly things that you do with your brand. Some of them are silly things that make you more endearing to other people, whether it's what you like to do with your family or in your free time, or if you're a bit of a crazy cat lady. Some of the other things that are involved in having a personal brand are even just the way you dress. This is kind of my uniform. It's almost embarrassing because I look like through my Instagram and I'm like, I am wearing the same thing, but it's comfortable. I really like it. And people will remember me like, and then I think you were wearing that same outfit last time we met. It's fine, I wash it. But whether it's quirky socks or fun eyeglasses, it helps to jog people's memory of who you are. Give people a lot of different ways to remember you. And last but not least, it's what you do. We can all wear silly socks. It doesn't mean we're going to be the best engineer in the world, right? We can all talk about our cats all day long, and that probably won't help us write code either. So what I'd like to do is also go over some of the ways that you can have a great personal brand, the kind of brand that everybody wants. Because when I walk into a room, I don't want people to go, "Oh, I know who Leslie is." I want people to go, "Oh my gosh, I've heard of Leslie. She is so awesome to work with." I want people to say, "I can't wait to work with you. I'm excited to work with you." And that's all about building trust in various ways. One of the first things that I noticed that I got a lot of kudos on over the years was actually completing projects. This might sound like a no-brainer, but it's not. How many people in this room have complained about a coworker who never seems to actually take something across the finish line? Super annoying, right? Don't be that person. Most of us are here because we're not that person. But it really is important, and it's a no-brainer, but we should remind ourselves of that all the time. It's accountability. It's knowing Leslie gets it done. When I ask her to complete a project, I know it will be completed. Sure, sometimes projects die on the vine, but they also know they're going to get a really succinct explanation from me about exactly why. And then I can still call it done. In order to do that, it takes focusing. Don't stretch yourself too thin. And that gets into my second point, which is knowing when to say no. It's completely okay, in order to finish Project A, to say no to Project B, or to set realistic expectations regarding your involvement in Project B, right? Like, somebody comes to me, I've already done my personal branding, they know who I am, and they say, Leslie, I want to work with you, can you please do this project? And I say, that project sounds awesome, but I don't think I can give you what you need. I can't give this project everything it needs. Here's what I can do. I can help consult and be very upfront about the amount of time that I have to give to this, and I can help recommend other people that could help get it done. And I can make sure and follow up with them that they actually do get it done, because I just put my name on the line recommending them. The other thing that's very important to do is listen. Listen to what's really being asked for whenever somebody comes to you with a problem. And when you want to just knee-jerk, be like, oh, I know exactly what to do. I did this like 5 years ago. It's super simple. We're just going to do this. Is it like, take a breath. Nobody wants to work with that person whose like only objective is to be first to find. That drives me nuts. So when you're in various meetings, whether it's with a group of people or speaking one-on-one, listen. And then listen some more. And when you are ready to jump in and say something, make yourself listen for 30 more seconds. You'll be surprised when you give people the space how much more you will learn from them and understand how you can help them better. I also like to think of this as being an aggregator of ideas. I'd like to tell you a story about being that aggregator of ideas. I told you I learned through a lot of trial and error. So early in my career, I was that person in the room who just could not wait to say something, which meant I wasn't listening. And I thought I had to jump in and say something right away so that I could get the credit for being the first person to say things. And I just thought that's how it was supposed to work. Until I started working with somebody else who did the exact same thing. And it was like looking in a mirror, and I hated what I saw. It was the worst behavior. And the other worst part was people would actually come up to me and talk to me about this person. Like, oh my gosh, they never listen, and all they want to do is talk, talk, talk. And I was like, I can't be that person anymore. And so that was when I first kind of, by trial and error, figured out I need to be quiet. I need to listen to what everybody's saying. And so I tried it on for size, because sometimes we have to do that, right? Not everything fits. But I kind of tried it on, and it felt uncomfortable, but I said, all right, I bought it. So, and I would sit in these meetings, and this particular project was one of the first projects I worked on where there was a VP in the room. And I was nervous, and I wanted to make a good impression, but I didn't want to be this person who just wouldn't shut up. And I tried on listening for size. And I sat there and I took copious notes of what everybody around the table was saying, and I listened to them. And part of my process is when I take notes, it's less about going back to the notes, it's actually how I learn. When I write things down, I tend to remember them. And I remember this particular meeting where I took my notes, and at the end of the meeting, we had like 5 minutes left, and I very sheepishly kind of like, hey, I have something to say. And this VP that I was terrified of was like, yeah, Leslie, you haven't said anything. And I was like, well, you know, I really liked what Bob said about this, and what Amy said about this, and what Paul said about this. And I think that if we kind of take this part, and this part, it was gold. Because I was an aggregator of ideas. And together, we're better than alone. And Paul only wanted to think about his solution, and Amy only wanted to think about hers. But by being the person in the room that listened and was able to give credit to each person, because that's incredibly important as well, to call back. I'm not taking Amy's ideas or Paul's ideas. I'm saying they're great, and if we join them together, it gets even better. And it felt really good. Everybody, nobody interrupted me. People were nodding their heads. And the best part, the very, 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 very best part, and I quote, because I'll never forget this, that VP came to my cubicle later that day. I had no idea he knew where I sat. And he said, and I quote, "You get a gold star for how you handled yourself." Yes! That was the best feeling. And so I learned a lesson that day, to listen. And I learned another very important lesson, which is to give credit where credit's due, not only to the people whose ideas I was backing up, but also to that VP who took the time to come and tell me that. Because if I hadn't gotten that positive reinforcement in that moment, I would not have employed that tactic throughout the rest of my career. And I still do it. Trust me, I talk a lot, but I also try to listen. Another thing I like to think about when I think about social media influencers and keys that we can take away from them is building a network. So I don't actually follow these women on, what's it called, Instagram, as you can tell. But I know a bit about them. And what I know is that they form alliances with other influencers, and they at each other. And so when Kim wants some extra likes, she might go get her sister to at her, and they're sharing their influence. They're giving their influence to other people. Because there's no shortage of likes, right? I can like all kinds of posts. It doesn't take somebody's like away to give it to somebody else if we share them. And that lesson is absolutely true in our industry as well. Whether you want to think of it in terms of mentorship or in terms of networking, I would encourage you to think of it both ways. I'll give you an example. I actually have a mentee who had a goal of getting more exposure with senior leadership. And so we kind of brainstormed on the ways that we could do that. And then I was speaking with a senior leader who said that she kind of needed a skunkworks project done. And I said, bingo, there we go. 2 birds, 1 stone. Because I can take the power of my network and make it a force multiplier for everyone. And the next thing you know, this mentee of mine was able to complete this skunkworks project, show it to this VP of ours who loved it, and the next thing you know, it's actually being written up on our internal website as one of the coolest projects we've worked on. It took us less than a week. I could have taken that idea, taken that skunkworks project and kept it to myself. I probably could have gotten it done, even though I don't write that much code anymore. But what did I say earlier? I didn't have the bandwidth, and I needed to know when to say no, and who else in my network might have been able to take it over. And now next time that VP is looking for someone to work on a project, not only will they still think of coming to me, they'll also think of coming to the people in my network. And the next time I walk into a room, both that VP and my mentee are going to go, "That's Leslie. You want to work with her." So please, if you're not already a mentor, do it, do it, do it. We all have to give back. Every single one of us is here today probably because somebody helped us. And we need to be the people to help the next generation. And we're going to get as much out of it as they are. You know, I talk to you right now about delegation, but I have a whole other talk on that. So that's your homework. You have to go listen to that one. But delegation is a very big part of this as well. Making sure that you're giving people space, whether it's a skunkworks project or an actual project that you actually have to get done because, like, you get paid to work where you work. But making sure that you are giving other people the space to shine and teaching them the lessons that you've learned. I really love the thought of the idea, like, I want to put myself out of this job. I want to build an army of people that can do my job, and it's not because I want to get fired or I want to quit. I want to work on the next big thing. And if I get mired in one project, I can't go do that. Which brings me to my next point about Kim Kardashian and Paris Hilton, diversification. They'll sell anything. But it's brilliant, isn't it? Because if I'm into couture, I can look to them for what kind of couture dresses. But I can also look to them for athletic wear. I can look to them for holistic kombucha or champagne. And diversification is so important in getting ahead. I mean, we learned this from financial markets as well, right? You don't put all of your stock into one company, even though I am terribly overinvested in Comcast. But try to get involved in as many projects as you can. Because now you're not just influencing your little tiny narrow view of the world, but you're influencing at scale. And it puts you in a position to get asked to more and more projects. Reach out and ask other coworkers, "Hey, what are you working on?" And take a little bit of time to try to figure out, like, okay, that sounds really similar to this thing I'm working on over here. Because I'm pretty sure if most of you guys' organizations are anything like mine, there's a bit of duplication in some of our platforms and projects. And maybe if you can be one of the people on a team that figures out how to combine forces, then maybe you'll win an Emmy. So get out of your comfort zone with regard to technologies, with regard to the teams that you're working with, and with regard to getting outside of the office. So the last thing that I'll leave you with in terms of getting outside of the office, and believe it or not, Paris Hilton actually just started an organization where she helps young men and women, who have been sent away. It's a whole thing to explain, but it's a volunteer organization that helps teenagers that have been sent away to, for lack of a better word, like outward bound camps where they weren't treated well, camps that aren't very well respected or well run. And that volunteerism is amazing. And we all need to do that as part of our day jobs too. So getting outside of your immediate team, getting outside of your technology set, but also getting outside of the office and giving back not only within our organizations, but to the communities in which we live. I look at the audience right now and I see so much wonderful diversity. And it takes someone like me, a black woman being up here right now, to make sure that other black women know that they can do this. And I can't just do that at Comcast. I need to be out speaking with high school kids about it. And I'll tell you this, that's actually the journey of how I started getting into public speaking. There's a wonderful organization called Tech Girls. And what they do is they teach middle school-aged young women how to code. They're fabulous. I totally suggest everybody Google them. But I volunteered with them once, probably 11 years ago. And the workshop that I volunteered for was to take apart computers and make jewelry out of them. Now, this was like pre-laptops. So we were taking apart, towers and looking at the rainbow ribbons that were in them. And I was explaining how hard drives work and explaining how to solder very carefully. And it was super fun. It was super rewarding. And I got to meet a bunch of cool people and exchanged emails with a couple of the people that were there. And a few days later, I got an email saying, "Hey, Leslie, it was really awesome meeting you. That was so great that you took your time on a Saturday morning to come give back to these girls. I'm speaking at this panel at the United Nations next week, and one of the people just dropped out. Are you, maybe free to go do that?" Yeah, I'll be there. Sure, no problem. And then much like tonight, much like last night when I was very nervous about coming to speak with all of you, I was super sick for a week because I was super nervous about going to the United Nations, but I did it, and it was cool, and it helped to start my journey to here today. But that was all to say that volunteerism can take you places you might not even imagine. So with that, I'm Leslie Chapman, two-time Emmy Award winner. Have a great day.